Fame, fortune, and fast money. Many rappers had it all, only to lose it over reckless spending, toxic relationships, and costly legal battles. From a once high-flying rapper who bragged about making millions in his viral hits, B told a judge he had $0 to his name, to a legendary lyricist known for rapping about financial wisdom but faced a costly divorce, these artists found themselves facing financial ruin, all because of the women in their lives. Soulja Boy. You know him, you love him, and you've definitely cranked that to his 2007 smash hit. Be behind the fame, the fortune, and the flashy lifestyle, there's a story of money, mistake, and a whole lot of drama. Soulja Boy, born DeAndre Cortez Way, was just 17 years old when he dropped Crank That, Soulja Boy. This wasn't just a song, it was a cultural reset. The track went viral before viral was even a thing, thanks to MySpace and YouTube. Everyone was doing the Superman dance, and Soulja Boy became an overnight sensation. But here's the thing, Soulja wasn't just a rapper, he was a pioneer. He was one of the first artists to use the internet to blow up, and it paid off big time. By 18, he was millionaire, signing deals, dropping albums, and even launching his own video game console. Yeah, remember the Soulja game? Life was good, and Soulja Boy was living it to the fullest. Soulja Boy wasn't shy about flaunting his Welt Rolls Royces, Rolexes, and ridiculously expensive jewelry. Check. Throwing stacks of cash at strip clubs? Double check. He was the poster child for the young, rich, and reckless lifestyle. But here's where things get messy. While Soulja was busy flexing on Instagram and living his best life, the cracks were starting to show. Lavish spending, legal troubles, and a string of bad decisions began to pile up. And then there was Kayla Myers. In 2019, Soulja Boy's ex-girlfriend, Kayla Myers, dropped a bombshell lawsuit that would change everything. She accused him of assault, kidnapping, and holding her at gunpoint during a 6-hour ordeal at his Malibu home. According to Myers, Soulja Boy threatened her life, tied her up with duct tape, and even struck her with a gun. In 2020, a jury ruled in Myers' favor, ordering Soulja Boy to pay her nearly $472,000 in damages. But here's where it gets wild. When it came time to pay up, Soulja claimed he was broke, like negative bank account broke. Soulja Boy, the same guy who was flaunting luxury cars, designer clothes, and a $472,000 judgment. How does that even happen? During the court proceedings, Soulja's financial situation was laid bare. He admitted that his bank account was in the negative and that he was struggling to make ends meet. But here's the kicker. Despite claiming to be broke, he was still living in a multi-million-dollar home, driving cars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and rocking $18,000 worth of jewelry. The judge wasn't buying it. In fact, he called Soulja out in the most brutal way possible. Someone as close to zero financially as defendant claims to be might want to scar down the living arrangements, the judge said. $25,000 is a lot of monthly rent, even in Los Angeles. His lawyer argued that these assets were tools of his trade as an entertainer, but the court wasn't having it. The judge even suggested that Soulja Boy sell some of his assets to pay off his debts. But here's the thing, even if he sold everything, it still wouldn't cover the $472,000 he owed Myers. This wasn't just about the Kayla Myers lawsuit. Soulja Boy's financial struggles were PA of a larger pattern. He had a $1 million tax lien hanging over his head, and he'd been in and out of court for years over various legal issues, including probation violations and cryptocurrency scandals. The rapper's claims of being broke were shocking, especially considering his celebrity status. Here's a guy who was once worth millions, living the high life, and now he's fighting to prove he can't pay a $472,000 judgment. It's a stark reminder of how quick things can go south when you mix fame, fortune, and poor financial decisions. Despite how gloomy things looked, Soulja was reportedly able to pay the settlement, and just a year later, things looked a bit better for the rapper. He took to Instagram to flex H. Warner Chappell music earnings, showing off deposits totaling nearly $1.05 million. This was a major flex, especially after all the talk about him being broke. It looks Soulja Boy is back in the game, dropping new music, staying relevant, and rebuilding his empire. Soulja Boy's reckless spending and legal troubles nearly wiped out his fortune, but he managed to claw his way back. Nas, on the other hand, wasn't as lucky early on. His financial woes came from a costly divorce that left him scrambling to recover. Nas. Before Nas was making millions, he was just a kid from Queensbridge, New York, one of the roughest housing projects in America. He saw drugs, crime, and violence every day. But instead of falling victim to the streets, he put his pain into poetry. By 1991, he was already turning heads after dropping an unforgettable verse on Live at the Barbecue by Main Source. Record labels were watching, and by 1994, Nas dropped his debut album, Illmatic. Critics called it a masterpiece. Fans called it revolutionary. Overnight, Nas went from a Queensbridge kid to hip-hop royalty. With back-to-back hits like If I Ruled the World and Hate Me Now, money started pouring in. Nas was stacking millions, buying houses, jewelry, and living the rap star dream. But while his bank account was growing, so were his responsibilities, especially when it came to the women in his life. Long before Nas and Kellis, there was Carmen Bryan, the woman who would introduce him to the expensive world of child support. Carmen and Nas had a daughter daughter together, Destiny Jones, in 1994, the same year Illmatic dropped. At first, things seemed fine, but as Nas's fame grew, so did his problems. Carmen wasn't just any ex. She was connected to hip-hop's biggest names. In fact, she would later admit to cheating on Nas with none other than Jay-Z, fueling the already legendary beef between the two rappers.
I had a relationship with Jay-Z, but the thing about Jay-Z and I, we were friends before anything.
If that wasn't enough, Carmen went on to write a tell-all book, exposing details about her relationships with both men, adding even more fuel to the fire. But beyond the drama, there was one thing she didn't need a book deal for: Nas child support checks. Raising a child as a single mother meant Nas had to pay up, big time. While the exact amount he paid over the years isn't public, we know that child support for a high-earning rapper is no joke, and Carmen made sure she got every penny. But if Nas thought paying for one child was expensive, he had no idea what was coming next. Fast forward to 2002, and Nas meets Kellis Rogers, the Harlem-born singer behind Milkshake and Bossy. The two hit it off fast, and by 2005, they were married. At first, they were hip-hop's power couple. Nas was still one of the most respected MCs, and Kellis was a rising star. But behind the scenes, things weren't so perfect. Their relationship was filled with fights, accusations, and toxic energy. Kellis later claimed that Nas was physically abusive, controlling, and that their marriage left her emotionally scarred. Nas, on the other hand, said Kellis was manipulative, emotionally abusive, and took advantage of him at his lowest. The breaking point came in 2009 when Kellis was pregnant with their son, Knight Jones. She filed for divorce, claiming she needed to get out for the sake of her unborn child. Now that's when things got expensive. Divorces in Hollywood are never cheap, but Nas's case was especially brutal. When the courts ruled in Kellis's favor, Nas was ordered to pay over $300,000 in child and spousal support. And get this, when he couldn't pay the full amount up front, they set his monthly payments at $50,000. That's right, every month, Nas was writing Kellis a check for a luxury lifestyle. His lawyers fought back, managing to reduce it to $10,000 a month, but by then, the damage was already done. Nas had already shelled out hundreds of thousands of dollars, money he would never get back. As if the divorce wasn't bad enough, Nas was about to get hit with even more financial trouble. While Nas was dealing with court battles and child support, the IRS was watching, and in 2012, they hit him with a $6 million tax bill. That's right, Uncle Sam doesn't care if you're going through a divorce. If you owe money, they're coming for you. On top of that, the state of Georgia also claimed Nas owed over $1 million in back taxes. With divorce payments, child support, and millions in tax debt, Nas had no choice but to sell off assets, liquidate properties, and scramble to stay afloat. By 2012, he even lost his home. The house he bought with Kellis for over $500,000 was foreclosed and repossessed. From making millions to losing everything, Nas' downfall was one of the most shocking in hip-hop history. But here's the thing about legends. They don't stay down for long. Instead of wallowing in financial ruin, Nas made a game-changing move. He started Queensbridge Venture Partners, an investment firm focused on tech startup. And guess what? It paid off. Nas invested early in Coinbase, Lyft, and Ring, turning what little money he had left into millions. At the same time, he got back to his roots, dropping new albums and going on tour. Nas may have learned his lesson after financial setbacks caused by lavish spending and costly divorce, but the game took things to another level, burning through his fortune due to his reckless behavior with women. The Game. One of the West Coast's most recognizable rap figures, The Game, is a former protege Dr. Dre, and the man who helped keep gangster rap alive in the mid-2000s. With classic albums like The Documentary and Doctor's Advocate, he built a reputation as one of the hardest-hitting MCs in the industry. And when it came to money, the rapper wasn't shy about flexing his wealth. Back in 2016, The Game made headlines, not just for his music, but for accidentally revealing just how rich he was. It all started with a charitable gesture when he pledged $500,000 to help the people of Flint, Michigan, during their devastating water crisis. He wanted to prove he was a man of his word, so he posted a screenshot of his wire transfer to Avita Water. But here's where things got interesting. He forgot to blur out his bank balance. And what did it say? $13 million sitting in his account. Fans were shocked. The Game had been in the industry for over a decade, but many had no idea he was sitting on that kind of money. And in typical Game fashion, he took the opportunity to call out celebrities like Madonna and Jimmy Fallon for donating only $10,000, saying that amount was cute, but not nearly enough. At that time, The Game was still on top of the world. He had money, influence, and successful music career. But fast forward to 2024, and things look very, very different. So how did The Game go from millions in the bank to fighting to keep his home? It all comes down to a lawsuit that refuses to go away. In 2015, Priscilla Rainey, a contestant on The Game's VH1 reality show, She Got Game, filed a sexual assault lawsuit against him. She claimed The Game groped H inappropriately during filming, and in 2016, a judge ruled in her favor, ordering him to pee a $7.1 million judgment. At first, the game did what many rappers do in these situations. Ignored I for years, he refused to pay the settlement, dodged court orders, and tried every legal maneuver possible to get the case thrown out. But the courts weren't playing. By 2024, U.S. District Judge Mark C. Scarcy ruled that enough was enough. The court was done waiting and authorized the seizure of the game's assets to cover the judgment, including his Calabasas mansion. The idea of losing his home in one of LA's most exclusive neighborhoods wasn't just a financial problem, it was a major blow to his image. This was a rapper who built H's career on power, street credibility, and success, and now he was being forced to sell off his property like a struggling artist. But the $7 million judgment wasn't the only issue. Adding to his troubles, the game reportedly lost over $100,000 in a car burglary, further compounding his financial problems. When it rains, it pours, and for the game, it was pouring legal fees, asset seizures, and bad luck. But here's where things get even more messy. With financial pressure mounting, rumors started swirling that the game had found new, questionable way to make money. According to reports, aspiring rappers began receiving DMs from the game's team, offering them a chance to be featured on his mixtapes for a fee of $500 to $1,000. At first, it seemed like a dream opportunity. Imagine getting a feature with the game. There was a catch. Instead of being featured on his verified SoundCloud, these rappers were placed on random low-following account that had little to no exposure. The game wasn't promoting the projects on his social media, and worst of all, he didn't even rap on the songs. Many up-and-coming artists quickly realized they'd been duped. They thought they were buying a cosign from a West Coast legend, but instead, they got nothing but empty promises. As fans and the hip-hop community called him out for scamming struggling artists, the game didn't directly address the accusations. Instead, he posted screenshots of messages from happy artists thanking him for the opportunity. But let's be real, screenshots can be cherry-picked, and with the game's $7 million legal battle looming, people weren't convinced. With his home at risk, his reputation on the line, and financial struggles piling up, he's in a tough spot. Unlike other rappers who reinvented themselves through investments or business ventures, the game hasn't made major moves outside of music. If he doesn't find a way to turn things around, he could be facing a full-blown financial collar. The game's legal troubles cost him millions, but DMX's story is a cautionary tale on an even larger scale, where bad financial decisions, addiction, and endless child support payments ultimately left one of hip-hop's greatest icons in financial ruin. DMX. Few rappers in history have embodied raw emotion and street energy the way DMX did. His voice, his presence, and his pain-stricken lyrics made him one of hip-hop's most legendary figures, a true icon whose influence stretched far beyond Mew. From the moment his debut album, It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, dropped in 1998, DMX proved he was a force to be reckoned with. The album sold 251,000 copies in its first week, went on to push over 5 million units worldwide, and that was just the beginning. With 7 studio albums selling more than 70 million copies worldwide, 3 Grammy nominations, an American Music Award, and even a successful movie career, DMX should have been set for life. But as history has shown us time and time again, making money isn't the problem, keeping it is. DMX made tens of millions of dollars throughout his career, but his spending habits, legal troubles, and personal demons quickly caught up with him. Born Earl Simmons, DMX's childhood was filled with abuse, neglect, and trauma. Turned to the streets at an early age, and by the time he became famous, he was already battling a crippling drug addiction that would follow him for the rest of his life. Despite his success, financial responsibility was never his strong suit. He lived extravagant lifestyle but didn't take care of his obligations, including a staggering number of child support payments. DMX had 15 children with multiple women, each relying on him for financial support. His first marriage to Tashera Simmons fell apart under the weight of his infidelities and countless extramarital affairs. By the time they appeared on VH1's Couples Therapy in 2012, Tashera had already endured years of heartbreak due to DMX fathering kids outside their marriage. She later told Essence magazine, "I do still feel bad about getting divorced, even after everything X put me through, because I took my vows very seriously. But there just comes a time when you give your all, and you know you gave your all, and it's just time to move on." But moving on didn't solve DMX's financial problems. By 2015, DMX was drowning debt and owed over $400,000 in back child support. As a result, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail, but was released after serving only 2 months. Later that same year, he was arrested again, this time for failing to pay $10,000 a month in child support to Tashera. In court, DMX pleaded for a second chance, explaining that he needed time to rebuild his career and earn money. "It's not like I can hide. All I have is my name and my reputation." The judge showed leniency and released him without bail, but the reality was clear. DMX's financial troubles weren't going anywhere. At one point, DMX owed so much money that he filed for bankruptcy in 2001. According to reports, his assets were only around $50,000, while his debts ranged between $1 million to $10 million. And then came the tax evasion scandal. In 2017, DMX was hit with 14 counts of tax fraud, accused of hiding millions from the IRS. He reportedly used false bank accounts and avoided paying taxes on nearly $2 million in income. The result? A one-year prison sentence. By the time he was released in January 2019, his debt to the IRS had ballooned to $2.3 million. And the IRS wasn't the only problem. Over the years, DMX served time for multiple charges, including weapons possession, reckless driving, drug possession, and probation violations. Each arrest made it harder for him to get back on his feet, and his finances took another hit each time. Despite making millions throughout his career, by the time of his death in 2021, DMX's net worth was estimated to be negative $1 million. Years of mismanagement, legal fees, child support debts, and tax problems had completely drained his fortune. But here's the thing, DMX's legacy isn't about money. His music spoke to pain, struggle, and redemption. His voice carried realness and raw emotion that made him one of the most beloved rappers of all time. He may have died broke, but his impact on hip-hop is priceless. DMX's financial struggles were deeply tied to his personal demons, child support obligations, and reckless spending. But while DMX's troubles were rooted in long-term financial mismanagement, YK Osiris found himself in a similar position faster, losing his fortune almost overnight by trying to fake the celebrity lifestyle. YK Osiris had it all, or at least that's what it looked like. After breaking onto the scene with his hit song Worth It in 2019, the Jacksonville artist seemed like the next big thing in R&B. He had millions in the bank, co-signed by the biggest rappers in the game, and was flexing like a superstar. But behind all the designer clothes, jewelry, and viral social media moments, there was a darker reality. YK Osiris wasn't just spending money, he was burning through it. And the biggest culprits? His addiction to flexing, trying to impress women and keeping up an image he couldn't afford. For YK Osiris, success didn't just mean making money, it meant looking the part. He believed that in order to be respected as an artist, he had to keep up with the likes of Drake, Lil Baby, Young Thug, and the biggest names in the game. That meant expensive cars and designer clothes he only wore once. Diamond chains and luxury watches, luxury vacations, dropping thousands on women. But the problem? He wasn't making enough money to sustain it. YK Osiris wasn't just reckless with money, he was reckless with love. Instead of investing in his career, he invested in trying to impress women. He was buying women expensive handbags, designer heels, and jewelry that he couldn't afford himself. He took women to the most exclusive restaurants and parties, acting like money wasn't an issue. From luxury vacations to gifting women cars and jewelry, he made sure his relationships looked like couple goals on Instagram. But behind the scenes, his bank account was bleeding dry. And the worst part, the women he spent the most on weren't around when the money ran out. YK Osiris admitted he blew through his first big check almost immediately once Worth It blew up. The checks started rolling in. He was making 6 figures piece show, getting feature money and living like a superstar.
Man, I went broke so goddamn quick, man.
Instead of saving, investing, or building his career, he went into full celebrity mode. He gave his mom $250,000, a kind gesture, but not smart when you're still new to wealth. He spent $300,000 on designer clothes, most of which he only wore once. He paid $400 per haircut, twice a week, spending tens of thousands on haircuts alone. YK Osiris thought he was living like a millionaire, but he wasn't actually one. It's like when you don't have money, you don't think about it. But once you get it, your mindset changes. You start buying everything. His financial choices weren't just bad. They were unsustainable. YK Osiris wanted to be part of the elite hip-hop circle. And that meant gambling, flexing, and trying to impress the industry's biggest stars. He owed Drake $60,000 and had to sing his way out of the debt. He owed Lil Baby and Young Thug money from bets gone wrong. French Montana clowned him at a party, reminding him he still owed him cash. Even when he declared himself debt-free on Instagram with stacks of money spelling it out, he later remembered he still owed Young Thug. When the IRS hit him with a $190,000 tax bill, that was the final blow. The flexing, women, the lifestyle, it was all a facade. YK Osiris thought money would make people love him, but in the end, he realized women don't stick around when the money is gone. Fake friends only want to be around when you're spending. A hit song doesn't guarantee financial stability. At just 23 years old, YK Osiris learned the hard way that chasing clout can leave you broke. YK Osiris's downfall was fueled by impulsive spending and gambling debts. But for Mystical, money wasn't just lost on bad bets. It was drained by constant legal troubles, mostly involving women, which derailed his career time and time again. Mystical. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Mystical was on top of the world. Hits like Shake Your Ass and Danger were dominating the charts, and his albums were selling like crazy. His 2000 album Let's Get Ready went double platinum, cementing his status as one of the biggest rap stars of the era. He even landed 2 Grammy nominations and was pulling in millions from record sales, tours, and endorsements. At his peak, Mystical was living the dream: big houses, expensive cars, and of course, a lavish lifestyle filled with all the excesses that come with hip-hop superstardom. Behind the scenes, he was making reckless financial decisions that would come back haunt him. In 2003, the same year he got 2 Grammy nominations, Mystical's career took a major hit when he was convicted of sexual battery. He had accused his hairstylist of stealing $80,000 worth of checks, and instead of handling things legally, he and his bodyguards forced her into sex acts, which they filmed. That decision cost him everything. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in prison, effectively ending his career at the height of his success. While in prison, his finances spiraled out of control. With no new music or touring income, the money dried up fast. Legal fees, settlements, and lost revenue turned what was once a fortune into a financial disaster. By the time he was released in 2010, he was far the millionaire rapper he once was. After serving his sentence, Mystical tried to revive his career. He signed with Cash Money Records and attempted to drop new music, but the momentum just wasn't there. His name was tarnished, and fans had moved on. To make matters worse, his reckless behavior with women continued. In 2016, he was accused of rape and kidnapping, which led to him spending 18 months in jail before the charges were eventually dropped due to lack of evidence. But even though he avoided another conviction, the damage was done. His legal troubles scared off record labels and promoters, making it nearly impossible for him to get back in the game financial. Just when it seemed like he might have learned his lesson, Mystical found himself in even deeper trouble. In 2022, he was arrested again, this time for first-degree rape, simp robbery, and felony domestic abuse. The allegations were disturbing. He had beaten, choked, and sexually assaulted a woman at his home after accusing her of stealing $100 from him. And if that wasn't enough, he forced her to transfer money to him using a mobile app before finally letting her G. At this point, Mystical's financial situation was beyond repair. Years of legal battle settlements and lost career opportunities had completely drained his bank accounts. He reportedly owed millions in legal fees and had no major sources of income left. Once a multi-millionaire rapper, he was now just another cautionary tale of wasted potential. For more content like this, click on the videos showing on your screen now.